Alright, this is Steve, and I thought I'd show you what Jake and I did as a project. We hooked up a water line to our coffee maker so we never have to fill the coffee maker again, and it works well. Now, they do make kits for Keurigs, but they don't make kits for our model, for the standard home Keurig, so we decided to do it ourselves. And we did a little research and bought the components, and it was fun. So let me show you what we did. So we started with a typical water line that goes to a refrigerator like this to the ice maker, and we cut the line and we used a T-connector like this. With a T-connector you just push the plastic tubing into each section. That gave us an extra line. We ran the line through the wall and it comes up to this valve that lets the water in, and then the line comes over here to the Keurig and goes in the side to fill up the coffee maker. That's the plumbing part, and I'll show you the electronic part. So we started with a 12-volt power supply that we bought from Amazon, and it has an end that's kind of like this. This is a computer end, but it was very similar to that, and a little bit smaller. We just cut the end off. We stripped the wires, and that's where we got our power supply. And then we bought a 12-volt relay. This is a 12-volt relay, and they're apparently very commonly used in cars. Car gearheads use these all the time to install electronic systems, so they're easy to find and pretty cheap. And what a relay does is it's a switch that's used as the connection point between two different circuits. So the two circuits we used is, the first circuit is just the one that checks for the water level. So the power comes into the relay and it goes to the first circuit, which follows these wires here, and it goes in those wires over to here into the water tank, where we have a float. So this float here is just like the float that's in your toilet. It has a buoy that drops when the water level goes down, and when it drops to the bottom, it completes the circuit, the switch I mean, by closing the switch so the current can continue the loop. When it's up, the switch is open and the current doesn't flow. So I'll show you by pushing down on the buoy here, and you'll hear it engage, and you'll hear the click as water starts to fill. So that's the switch. Anyway, the current goes back when the switch is closed, because the buoy drops back to the relay, and if the current returns to the relay, then it switches current to the other circuit over here, which goes right to our solenoid valve. So if you remember solenoids from physics, solenoid is a loop of wire in a cylinder, and when it gets current, it creates a magnetic field. And the magnetic field then pulls a magnet up and away from the water valve, and that's what opens the water valve. It's just like the solenoid on your car. I'm not a car expert, but I have changed the starter on the car, which is has a solenoid component to it. And when you turn the switch on your car, you hear that click of the solenoid engaging. Well, you hear the same click here, and so it has a similar sound. This is the right kind of valve for this project, because if the power goes out when the valve is open, then the solenoid will lose current, the magnetic field will go away, and the magnet will fall, and the valve will automatically close. So that's important, because you don't want to lose power and have water still running if that happens. So anyway, that's the valve, and that's all there is to the electronic circuitry. And it was actually very simple to hook up the electronics. The hard part was actually the plumbing. It's not that it was hard, it's just that they make different plumbing sizes. There's inside diameter, outside diameter, and tapered threads. And we had the different threads to match the components we bought, and I had to go back and forth to the store before you found all the right components. It was a little bit annoying. But at any rate, those are the components. Then it's inside this junction box, which I close up, and then we can drop the whole mechanism behind the counter so you don't see it, and then there's just this tube that comes up, and from the front it really looks pretty good. You can't really see much at all, so it looks nice, and I'll show you how it works. Now, it makes that clicking sound. We could have prevented that before I show you. You can add this guy. This was a timer circuit that I bought. Came from China. Cost me $1.67. Boy, it's not in focus. But it had no instructions. It just came with some Chinese characters. But I figured out how to hook it up. If I hook this up, I could build in like up to a 10-second delay after the water starts before the valve will close, so you don't hear it open and close a lot. But Deborah actually likes the open and closing. It sounds kind of like a typewriter, so we decided to leave it as is, and I didn't actually install that. All right, let me show you how this works. I'm going to make some coffee. Oh, I need a coffee mug. Oh, hey, this will work. No, that's not clean. Hold on one sec. Okay, got a coffee mug. Let me pick a coffee here. I'll just have this Dark Magic. That sounds good. So I'll put that in there. Close the Keurig. And I'm going to come down here so you can see the water level. It's hardly going to move because as soon as it goes down, the buoy will kick in. And you'll hear the click, click, click. And it'll fill right back up. It hardly wiggles at all. And it works really well. We haven't had to fill it at all in weeks. So that's how it works. Now, the funny thing is when we were about 3/4 of the way through this project, Jake was doing some research online and he found a better way to do this. He found that we could have hooked it up without using any electronics. They make a float system that will actually fit inside the Keurig tank that will just open and let the water in. That's very similar to a toilet float type system. That would have been smarter, then we wouldn't have had any electronics. So I'm actually going to hook that up to my water pitcher that is inside my refrigerator so I never have to fill up that again, and I'll report back to you after I'm done with that. All right, thanks.